Hello and welcome to my Classroom Management narrated PowerPoint by Hannah Olson. Classroom management is a complex yet crucial component of teaching that is used by all educators to ensure their classroom runs efficiently. Effective classroom management allows teachers to positively engage their students in learning while minimizing disruptive behaviors. Though classroom management is a critical skill for all teachers, there's no specific method or strategy to ensure success. In fact, there are countless different theories, strategies, and techniques that provide teachers with ways to manage their classrooms. However, in the end, an academically productive classroom is the ultimate goal of all classroom management. There are several different factors that work together to create an academically productive classroom. 4 of these factors include classroom organization, setting rules and enforcing consequences, establishing procedures and routines, and the use of rewards and incentives. These 4 key factors and my corresponding philosophical beliefs to behavioral management will be discussed further throughout the presentation. First factor I will explore is classroom organization. I'm beginning with classroom organization because it can be implemented without the presence of students. However, the way students ultimately respond to classroom organization is important to consider. Classroom organization includes numerous detailed elements, but I find the physical arrangement, specifically the arrangement of student desks, to be the most important element. In an efficient classroom, both the teacher and student should be able to move easily from one area to another. This means students can get from one place to another without bumping into each other, and areas of high traffic have plenty of space. Because student desks tend to take up a large portion of the classroom, the arrangement of desks plays a crucial role in allowing for this type of movement. Now, when it comes to the arrangement of desks, I prefer the usage of group pods. Pods can be formed from several tables or individual desks, so it is easy to manipulate with whatever is available. I like the idea of utilizing pods rather than individual desks because pods create a learning community and promote cooperative learning, which according to teacher as a decision maker is beneficial to students' academic test scores, self-esteem, social skills, acceptance of individuals of other races and ethnic groups, and the comprehension of skills and content. The placement of the student desk should also be heavily considered. No matter the arrangement selected, the desk should be placed directly in front of the instructional focal point. The instructional focal point is where primary instruction takes place. In any given classroom, this could be a smartboard, whiteboard, or chalkboard, but nevertheless should allow all students to have full and equal access to the instruction. The next factor I will discuss is how I would implement classroom rules and consequences. Many elements of classroom rules and consequences vary depending on grade level, but there are several elements that overall stay consistent. So let's take a look at establishing classroom rules. When it comes to classroom rules, a short and simple set of 3 to 5 rules should be sufficient to cover the most important areas of behavior. It is much more effective to have a few comprehensive rules than having many specific rules. Plus, fewer rules are easier for students to remember and are much more doable. In addition, the rules should be stated in a positive manner, using student-friendly language. A very basic, doable, and student-friendly set of rules includes 1. Listen and follow directions. 2. Raise your hand before speaking or leaving your seat. 3. Keep your hands and feet to yourself, and 4. Respect your classmates and teacher. Having a clear, consistent sequence of consequences to accompany the rules is also a necessity. Consequences should build from less severe to more severe, and the most important aspect of consequences is that they are imposed consistently. An example of a hierarchy of consequences includes 1. Warning, 2. Timeout from either the activity or group, 3. Communication home, like a note, a phone call, or an email, 4. Action plan, and 5. Conference with parents, teacher, and administrator. And even though I have already created some general rules and consequences, it is important to include the students in creating the final list of rules and consequences that will govern the classroom. According to the article, Creating Classroom Rules Together by Scholastic Teachers, students are more likely to buy into the rules if they have a hand in creating them. It is also important to teach the rules and consequences to the students. This does not mean simply reading the rules and consequences, but instead really teaching them. This should be accomplished through detailed modeling of appropriate and inappropriate behavior. Teachers should model the behaviors from the perspective of both the students and the teacher, and then finally have the students model the expectations as well. One theorist that I share a similar disciplinary belief with is William Glasser and his non-corrosive disciplinary theory. Glasser believes it is the teacher's responsibility to teach students that they are the ones who choose how to act. Therefore, according to the Organized Teacher's Guide to Classroom Management, the teacher's task is to help students make good choices by making clear the connection between student behavior and its consequences. One way to make such a connection, as I stated earlier, is through student input into class rules and consequences. In addition to the list of consequences, it is important to find a technique for effectively managing behavior while teaching is taking place. I believe it is necessary to promptly identify and address behaviors. However, I do not find it appropriate to do so in such a way that embarrasses or makes a student feel uncomfortable, especially in front of their peers. Some alternatives to directly calling out students would be using proximity, moving the activity or lesson along, and/or using nonverbal cues like a head shake or a finger to the lips. If a misbehavior becomes intolerable, I believe the best option is to excuse the student from the activity or task. I want to clarify, this does not mean the student leaves the classroom, but instead, when told, the student simply removes himself from the group and moves to an isolated area of the classroom. For example, if an activity is taking place at the rug during circle time, the student would move to their desk for isolation. The teacher then invites the student back into the activity or task when it is deemed appropriate. Another option would be to utilize a calming corner. This is especially useful when a student is expressing anger. A calming corner is where students can go to briefly get away from the frustrating task or overstimulating activity. Within the calming corner are several soothing and sensory-specific materials. Once again, the student is invited back to the activity or task when deemed appropriate. The third factor I will explore is procedures and routines in the classroom. The first few days of school are the most crucial time for procedures and routines, and how a teacher manages the first few days of school can really set the stage for the entire year. Now, there are countless procedures and routines that need to be established and taught to students, but some specific examples that I would teach within the first few days of school include entering the classroom at the beginning of the day, retrieving and putting away materials, transitioning between subjects, getting the teacher's attention, lining up, walking in the hallways, and cleaning up at the end of the day. Another important procedure to teach immediately is the usage of signals in the classroom. Signals are used to obtain the student's attention when regrouping the student's focus, making a transition, giving extra instructions, and/or providing directions. The attention signal may include both verbal and physical components. One signal that I plan on using is a simple yet very effective clap pattern signal. The teacher claps a pattern, and these students must stop what they are doing to repeat the clap back. Each one of these routines follows the same basic steps for establishing them. The first step is to introduce and explain the routine. Inform your students why the routine is important and what you expect them to do as a part of the routine. The second step is to model your expectations. Similar to the rules and consequences, this involves acting out what you expect, breaking down each and every step of the routine. Next, have the students model the routines themselves. The great and fun way to do this is through role play. The third and final step is to practice the routines as an entire class. This must be repeated until the entire class feels comfortable completing the routine without teacher assistance. Keep in mind this step may take several days to several weeks in order to complete. A very easy and organized way to keep track of all the routines and procedures is to create a binder, which can be used as a reference tool for both the teacher and students and is also great to leave for a sub. A further routine and ultimately procedure that I would like to touch base on is the process of communicating with parents. Communicating with parents can be a frightening thing for teachers, especially for new teachers. However, I feel that teachers and parents need to establish a relationship that encourages communication. After all, parents are and were their students' children's first teacher. Now, there are countless avenues of communication between teachers and parents, especially with the emergence of technology. So keeping in touch with parents through email or phone call can always be an option. However, I prefer a much more personal way of communicating with parents. In my classroom, I will utilize weekly classroom newsletters that preview what the week in the classroom will look like. By previewing the week ahead, teachers are not only keeping parents in the loop of what their children are learning and doing, but it also gives time for parents to contact the teacher if there are any questions, comments, or concerns. In addition to sending a weekly newsletter, a weekly report will also be sent. The report is designed to let parents know how their child behaved and progressed academically throughout the week. A weekly report will be filled out for every student and sent home attached to their weekly newsletter on Friday. The parents must then review and the report with their children and return it on Monday with a signature and any questions, comments, or concerns. Obviously, if there is a behavioral issue that needs to be addressed immediately, I will use the modes of technology of email or phone call to communicate that. The fourth and final factor I will discuss is the use of rewards and incentives. I believe the usage of rewards and incentives is acceptable to a degree. What I mean by this is students should genuinely get excited about learning in the classroom, and this takes hard work and dedication by the teacher through creating interesting lessons and enjoyable activities. And it is important that teachers strive to do this instead of replacing the enjoyment of learning with rewards to bribe students into learning. It's also important to remember that incentive systems have the potential to involve every student in the classroom, and that they do not limit recognition to only a handful of students. In addition, teachers need to be mindful not to pass out incentives and rewards too frequently, because they may lose their effectiveness. And finally, managing incentive systems consistently and following through with any and all rewards is important. One incentive system that I have experienced firsthand in the classroom and plan on incorporating into my own classroom is called good work tickets. Anytime a student is doing something good, like working quietly, completing homework on time, or being a good friend, the teacher gives a good work ticket to the student. The student then puts his or her name on the back and turns it into the raffle box. At the end of the week, the teacher pulls a few names from the raffle box and rewards the student with a prize. Teachers can tailor their prizes to their classroom, but I plan on using privileges as rewards instead of tangible items. Privileges do not cost the teacher any money, yet they are just as effective and meaningful. Some privileges that can be used as rewards include free homework pass, lunch with the teacher, choosing the read aloud book, or being able to sit in a beanbag chair during silent reading time. Overall, classroom management is a complex yet crucial component of teaching. There's no specific method or strategy to ensure success, and all teachers have varying ways to create an academically successful classroom. I hope you enjoyed listening to my ways. Thank you.